I want to turn to the White House, the war on the NFL. President Trump threw himself a party today. Threw himself a party after nobody else would come. In a classic example of taking his ball and going home, the president escalated his fight with the NFL by scrapping a planned White House visit by the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles after he learned an embarrassingly small number of players and coaches would actually attend, replacing it with what he called a celebration of our country on the South Lawn today. But disinviting the Eagles didn't mean there would be no protests.
Stop hiding behind the armed services in the national anthem.
Thank you very much, everybody.
The president ignoring shouted questions from reporters.
Mr. President,
are you saying that the football players are not patriotic, sir? Is that what you're saying?
Will you meet with them, sir? Will you meet
with the athletes and talk to them?
So the White House calls all of this a political stunt, and they are absolutely right. This is a political stunt, but not by the Philadelphia Eagles, by the President of the United States, the man who said this.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Like I said, this was absolutely a political stunt by the president. A source close to the White House tells CNN that President Trump plans to continue to pound the NFL anthem issue through the midterms, continuing to trash players, mostly black players, for their protests over police abuse against people of color. So why is the president doubling down? Because he believes that it helps him with his base. A CNN poll after President Trump made that crude remark about the players, calling them SOBs, found 49% saying that pro athletes should be required to stand for the anthem. 47% said they should not be required to stand. That is well within the margin of error. So Americans are pretty much evenly divided on this issue. And the president, rather than trying to find common ground, is more than willing to exploit that division because he believes it helps him politically. He's more than willing to ignore the facts, to ignore the truth if he thinks that helps him. But facts matter. So here are the facts. Not one single Eagles player took a knee during the regular season. Not one. Not one. Not one single Eagles player stayed in the locker room during the anthem. Not one. So who is being disrespectful here? Who is stomping all over the values we hold dear as Americans? The values, the freedoms that American heroes have fought and died for. You know who is doing that? It's the person who's lying to you about the Eagles players. The person who's lied to you well over 3,000 times in the past 501 days. The person who is demanding forced patriotism, just as autocrats have done for centuries. That is none other than Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States. Now I want to bring in CNN political analyst April Ryan, CNN political commentator Scott Jennings, and Republican strategist Rick Wilson. Good evening to all of you. Welcome to the program. Rick, I'm going to begin with you. Sarah Sanders says that the Eagles, they're orchestrating a political stunt. But if you look at this in the big picture here, the president lying about the Eagles taking a knee during the anthem, then Sarah Sanders attacking the team today, who is orchestrating a political stunt?
Listen, if I may quote Elf, Donald Trump sits on a throne of lies. These are people built a political show today in order to throw red meat out there in a little clash in the culture war so that Donald Trump could distract people from all the other things that are rising around him with Michael Cohen and with Paul Manafort and everything else. And Sarah Sanders has become someone who stands at that podium every day and says one of two things. I refer you to outside counsel, or whatever other things that are coming out of her mouth while it's moving are lies. And this was an outright lie. The Eagles players had not knelt on the field. They had not engaged in protests. And, it should hopefully teach the NFL owners a valuable lesson. They bent the knee for Trump, and he still cut their heads off. he still humiliated them. He still went after them. He still made them characters in this political stunt that he and Sarah Sanders executed today.
April, so you asked Sarah Sanders if the president understands the reason some NFL players, and you also pointed out that none of the Eagles players decided to kneel. Watch this.
Is the president aware that this is about police-involved shootings and not about disrespecting the flag? Is the president aware of that, Sarah? Please. I understand you're going to Stephen, but I'm asking: there's an underlying issue, and it just keeps going about disrespect of the flag and soldiers. There are black and brown soldiers that fight in the military as well, who feel that taking a knee, bringing attention to police-involved shootings is something that this White House should deal with. Is the president aware that taking the knee is about police-involved shootings?
The president has made his position crystal clear, and that it's about, I let you rudely interrupt me and your colleague. I'm going to ask that you allow me to finish my answer. I would be happy to answer it if you would stop talking long enough to let me do that. The president has made his position crystal clear on this topic. He feels strongly that standing for our national anthem is something that we should do, something that matters to what makes our country special and unique and what sets us apart. He's not going to waver on that, and he's not going to apologize for it. And frankly, more than 70% of Americans agree with him on that matter. If you go back to what the original intent was, this has been made a political argument of which the president is not going to back down from, and he's been clear on it. Stephen, last question. April, I've addressed your question. I'm not going to continue to engage with you. Stephen.
The NFL is now telling people they have to stand. Will the president deal with the issue of police-involved shootings?
I'm going to deal with the issue of addressing your colleague's question.
But it's a real question. Can you take it to the president and come back to us with it?
Stephen, go ahead.
Well done, April. I wish there were more people in that room who would do that every single day. And you notice a guy after you said, I'm always happy to give my time to a colleague, which I thought was great. So, April, do you feel that this White House is purposely misconstruing the meaning of these protests? They're doing it on purpose?
Yes. Yes, I do. I've watched over this period of time that this president, these 501 days that this president has been in office. You have to remember, you know, he has said that it's disrespectful, and he's called out the NFL. The NFL is now doing the bidding of the president, basically saying that all the players must stand. But after that piece, what's next? They talk about they are the administration and the president for all America. Well, you have a segment of America that has created a fervor within not just the black community, but the brown community and other communities in the white community about what we're seeing, police-involved shootings, and they are not addressing it. I asked the president in October about this when he did his press conference in the Rose Garden, standing next to Mitch McConnell. He did not answer. He said it was about disrespect of the flag. But after you get through the disrespect and kneeling versus standing, you still have this issue. What are you going to do about it? You know, it's still a very big issue, and we're seeing it happen over and over again. And Don, not just a few weeks ago when we had the situation with a young man who was shot 20 times or more by police in his grandmother's backyard, and then we had the verdict come down about Alton Sterling. I mean, you know, Sarah Huckabee Sanders said it was a local issue. So, and then we still have the issue of Eric Garner, who cried out 11 times, "I can't breathe," in New York. His mother's still looking for justice, and that's still in limbo. Well, there are issues on the table, and this White House is primed to be the one to answer it, and they have not answered it.
That is the big question. Why are they not worried or concerned about police brutality? They should be. I couldn't believe that she called you rude, because obviously, I mean, she hadn't seen Helen Thomas or Jake Tapper or Sam Donaldson. I mean, that's the way the briefings used to be all the time. That was a contentious adversarial relationship, and now everyone wants to be friends with him. Hang on, Scott, I'm going to get you in here, and I'm veering off a little bit. What happened to the press corps? Why don't they do that anymore? Why don't they do what you did today?
Don, I'm going to say this to you, and my fellow colleagues may get mad at me. I don't care. But here's the bottom line. I came into the White House when Helen Thomas was the dean of the White House Press Corps, working for UPI. Ann Compton was there. Sam Donaldson, Bill Plant, so many others were there who would press. They would bang on that door.
So why don't they do it?
If the door was locked, they would challenge them. You know what? And I'm going to say this, and I don't care if people are angry. I've been there 21 years to there too.
Okay,
2 days. Here's the
sister.
bottom line. Many of the people in that room want to be friends with these administration folks. Be it any administration, there is a friendly adversarial relationship, and they're scared that they will not get information or they'll be talked about. So what?
We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show.
American public and giving
I'm glad you
information
said
to the
that.
American public.
We'll drill into that a little bit more. I got to get Scott in.
It's
Scott,
the truth.
The White House says today's event was canceled because it expected low attendance. But the president tweeted this out today, saying, staying in the locker room for the playing of our national anthem is as disrespectful to our country as kneeling. What does kneeling have to do with attendance?
Well, I think the reason they canceled the event, according to what I read from our own Caitlin Collins, was that the White House thought just a couple of days ago that some 80 Eagles were coming, coaches, players, trainers, and others. And then at the last minute, they were told fewer than 10 people were coming, and it was mostly coaches and trainers and very few, if any, players. And so I'm not sure the president had much of a choice but to cancel the event. How do you have a Super Bowl event with the players if there are no players? If this president knows how to do anything, it's produce a TV show. The cast of this particular show was the Eagles, and the cast wasn't going to show up. So I don't know if they had much of a choice once they found out of the low attendance. The president's views on this are well known. I happen to believe that the tension between the police in this country and the African American community is one of the most worrisome civil society problems we have. We cannot have huge swaths of our population that feel like they are being targeted by the people who are commissioned to keep us safe. It is not an acceptable condition. But the president, as Sarah said, has made his feelings on this national anthem issue known, and I'm sure he felt disrespected by the fact that he thought the Eagles were trying to pull one over on him by pulling out of their participation at the last minute. I think, frankly, Don, there is a way to look at this where everybody got what they wanted. The president politically got to inject the national anthem issue back into the bloodstream of our national conversation. And let's be honest, the Eagles players who want to draw attention to the racial injustice issues, which are real, look what we're talking about tonight. So there's a way to look at this where everybody got what they wanted here. Maybe in some way everybody's a winner from their own point of view.
Hey, Rick, I just quickly here, does it matter? What if just one player showed up? I mean, why would it matter? And you had a lot of people there already today. Why does it matter how many players show up?
Look, Donald Trump is about the spectacle. He is about the picture. He is about the frenzy of the visible. And so he would want that wall of players surrounding him because by some associative property, he feels like suddenly he's a Super Bowl player and the picture is good and the image is good. He didn't want to be standing there on stage with a half a dozen people who were incidental, maybe trainers and coaches and not the stars of the team. But, you have to ask yourself, why did they choose not to do this? And I think a lot of it came down to team solidarity. I think Scott's got a good point. I mean, I think these guys want to make that, the players want to make that clear that this is an issue that is not something that, the president has tried to make it merely about the flag and the pledge and the anthem. But, for them it is also about a peaceful civil protest and an expression of an issue that is incredibly tendentious and horrifying in this country. And it's something that the White House, President both sides has not been hesitant to blow the dog whistle in this country a few times over the years. And it doesn't escape my attention that he's used every word but uppity to describe them. And there's been an incredibly charged atmosphere around this president on matters of race from the beginning. And this would be something where he could be mindful about it. He could acknowledge the issue that's underpinning it, but he won't. Because he wants the social warfare issue. I'm going to keep you guys around. Stick around, everyone. When we come back, President Trump demanding forced patriotism from the NFL. But is my way or the highway the American way?